This involvement should make us less tolerant of any section of society creating a healthcare burden through any promotion of ignorance. Well, I firmly agree with that, Mr. Blackett. I firmly agree that we should be intolerant of any section of society who's spreading misinformation and creating a healthcare burden. For example, anybody who's misleadingly claiming that we don't need to reduce our meat consumption in the UK. I think we should be very intolerant of those people. So I wanted to go over this article in the Telegraph. Vegans are slowly killing themselves. Very dramatic headline. By this guy, Jamie Blackett. A little look at his Wikipedia page. I've seen him writing anti-vegan things before. He's listed as a writer, landowner, and political activist. I feel that when landowner is one of your top listed roles, you might have a vested interest in some aspects of farming. Let's see what he has to say. Ultra-highly processed vegan food can increase the risk of heart failure, according to research published in The Lancet. So completely misleading from the first sentence. The research talks about this whole category of what they call plant-based processed foods, but includes a bunch of things which are not completely plant-based. Includes a meat feast pizza is one of the items on this list. And it also includes vodka and a bunch of other things which is not really fair to call vegan food. So the way that this study is done is completely misleading, just to point that out. Surprise, surprise, veganism is not healthy. Wow. What a leap from Jamie Blackett. Now, another thing I noticed on this guy's Wikipedia, he's educated at Eton College. This is like the fanciest school in the UK, basically. It's going to cost several, tens of thousands a year in tuition fees. This is like the real aristocracy, right? This is the school of someone who's a landowner. Okay, so this guy should be pretty clever and should understand that these two sentences are not the same thing and that he cannot substantiate the claim that veganism is unhealthy. If he can substantiate that claim, I'd love to see it. It's time the government and its health agencies stood up to big food and celebrity proponents of veganism and finally called out the diet for the damage it is doing. Again, no damage being done by vegan diets, not what the study finds at all. Invocation of big food here. I wonder if he includes the livestock lobbies in that category. Thanks to the NHS, all taxpayers are stakeholders in the wider health of our nation. This involvement should make us less tolerant of any section of society creating a healthcare burden through any promotion of ignorance. Well, I firmly agree with that, Mr. Blackett. I firmly agree that we should be intolerant of any section of society who's spreading misinformation and creating a healthcare burden. For example, anybody who's misleadingly claiming that we don't need to reduce our meat consumption in the UK. I think we should be very intolerant of those people. So I agree with you there, Jamie. Governments should legislate to label all foods properly with their quantities of available nutrition, that is to say the nutrients that the human body is able to absorb from the food. We have known for some time that this absorption is best achieved when food is either in its whole state or minimally processed. Ingredients based on extracts of food don't pack the same punch when processed into unnatural compositions and may actually be harmful. Notice no citations given anywhere in this paragraph. Have we known for some time absorption is best when the food is in its whole state or minimally processed? I don't think that's correct. There's a bunch of processing that can happen to food to make you absorb nutrients better. In particular, with plant-based meats, they're often processed versions of legumes. Legumes contain phytogens, which inhibit the uptake of iron. That's called an anti-nutrient. And when they're processed into plant-based meats, those phytogens, anti-nutrients break down, and iron absorption is enhanced. Many of us believe that UHP food manufacturers are in the same position as the tobacco companies were in the 1960s. Many of us believe that about the meat industry. If this is the case, certain vegan foods should carry health warnings or even be banned altogether if they contain products known to have a propensity to increase the risk of heart disease. Jamie Blackett, do you take the position that foods known to be associated with an increased risk of heart disease should be banned? If you do take that position, that's going to apply to a lot of animal products. Let me know. Full transparency would expose the myth that vegan foods are good for you. I'm not talking here about whole grains, fruits, nuts and vegetables, which are perfectly healthy in a balanced diet with meat, fish, eggs and dairy products, right? You've got to have all of the animal products in there, of course. But highly processed compounds of them, often laden with colorings, emulsifiers and flavorings. Right, so again, it's alluding to these ingredients without actually making any claims about their healthiness. These health metrics especially matter when it comes to arguments about climate change. Kilo for kilo, vegan plant milk manufacturers are able to say that their products have lower carbon footprints than cow's milk. But when you measure CO2 against kilos of available protein, dairy milk has a third of the carbon footprint of almond milk and a quarter of that of oat milk. Interesting that he's choosing to focus on protein in particular here. When you measure CO2 against kilo for calories in different types of milk, for example, I wonder what that comparison would look like. It's just interesting that Jamie Blackett has chosen to focus on protein specifically. It's almost as if other metrics might not come out so favourable for his comparison. Moreover, we're just beginning to understand the importance of the highly complex proteins in cow's milk for human health. The caseins, whey proteins and mucins. We've discovered 4,654 of them so far against a handful found in plant milks. Again, focusing on proteins, right? Focusing on the part that's going to look favourable for the comparison that he wants to make. No mention of calorie density, no mention of any other nutrients, no mention of sugar, right? All of these would be favourable to plant-based milk, but he's forgotten to mention any of those things. Calories. I mean, I think that's quite important for food and healthiness, don't you? Calories? Oh no, he doesn't think so. Look at this next paragraph. Better nutritional education and a switch from the current absurd labelling legislation which focuses on calories, brackets irrelevant. Is that irrelevant? And crude macronutrients such as proteins. Well, he was obsessed with proteins a minute ago. Fats, brackets wrongly demonised, and carbohydrates, brackets wrongly praised, to one that provides information on micronutrients like vitamins and minerals would have far-reaching benefits. Wow, it seems like this guy, Jamie Blackett, is really taking issue with loads of the regular and widely accepted ways of measuring the healthiness of food. He says calories are irrelevant, fats are wrongly demonised, carbohydrates are wrongly praised. This guy takes every position that's against the mainstream with respect to food healthiness that there is. It's quite fitting then that he's actually just wrong about plant-based meats. I published this paper a few years ago called Plant-Based Animal Product Alternatives Are Healthier and More Environmentally Sustainable Than Animal Products. This paper's open access, by the way, so Mr. Blackett could read this if he wanted to. From the abstract here, in terms of healthiness, plant-based animal products alternatives present a number of benefits, including generally favourable nutritional profiles, aiding weight loss and muscle synthesis, and catering to specific health conditions. We look at that nutritional profile in more detail in the article, and we find that compared to meat from animals, plant-based meats are lower in calorie density, lower in fat, lower in saturated fat, lower in cholesterol, and higher in fibre. So the plant-based meats are a lot healthier than meat from animals. Jamie Blackett is just wrong about this. In fact, my mistake, he's not even wrong. He hasn't claimed anywhere in this article that plant-based products are less healthy than animal products, and he can't claim it because it's not true. So instead, we cherry-pick to focus on particular nutrients in particular products that are going to look favourable for our comparison, and refer to poor research which doesn't make the point that he wants to try and support the claim that veganism is not healthy. No actual claims about plant-based products and their healthiness compared to animal products. None whatsoever. I don't subscribe to the NHS in crisis narrative. It works daily miracles that would have been inconceivable a generation ago, but improved diets and the subsequent reduction in the rate of obesity, diabetes and heart disease across the general population would better help the nation's health and pockets than blowing billions of pounds of taxpayer money on increasing capacity. Does any party's manifesto include a commitment to fix the health system by tackling poor diets, I wonder? I am so pleased that Jamie Blackett here is so concerned about obesity, diabetes, heart disease. We could also add cancer to that list, right? I'm also very concerned about these chronic diseases and the state of the NHS. But I have good news for him. Here's some research that we did for the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation, finding that modest reductions in meat consumption in the UK could save billions for the NHS. This is something that Jamie Blackett is very concerned about. So I wonder if he agrees with me that we should be looking to reduce our meat consumption substantially, and that will tackle all of these issues that Mr. Blackett's very concerned about with respect to diabetes, heart disease, and so on. This article was complete, misleading, anti-vegan nonsense. It starts out with citing this poorly designed study, then it makes a leap to veganism in general, then it has a bunch of appeal to intuition about processing being bad, couple of cherry-picked things about protein being higher in cow's milk compared to almond milk, and then wrapping up with a point of agreement: we should indeed be encouraging diets in the UK which cut obesity, heart disease, diabetes and cancer. Does Jamie Blackett agree with me, therefore, that we should be promoting meat-reduced diets that will achieve all of his goals of reducing the rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease and cancer? It will save money for the NHS. And I'm pleased to tell Jamie he doesn't need to be concerned about plant-based alternatives. They're healthier than animal products. They're lower in calories, they're lower in fat, they're higher in fibre, they're lower in cholesterol. These are all things which are going to reduce the rate of heart disease and cancer if they replace a substantial amount of the meat that we eat. I'd love to hear if you disagree. If you found this useful and you want to see more short videos debunking misinformation from the meat industry, you can follow me here at these links.